Artists contributing to this book have been inspired by many of the interesting and historic places on the Whiteknights studio trail. The authors of this chapter, Evelyn Williams and Dennis Wood, would like to take you on a tour to see a selection of them along and around Southern Hill. We start with a very popular photograph of the original Whitley pump. From there the tour leads us to the Georgian buildings of Whitley Villa and the terrace known by many as Whitley Crescent. The original villa and terrace were built in the 1820s. One of the notable residents was Joseph Huntley, who was the founder of Huntley's Biscuits in London Street in 1822. Across the road we can see the lofty spire of the Grade 2-star listed Christchurch that is prominent in many parts of the town and beyond. It was designed by Henry Woodyer and consecrated in 1862. The spire and a south aisle were added in 1874. One of the outstanding features is the unusual lacery screen that acts like a veil over the chancel at the east end, the only one known in this country. The church's main doors are shown on a quilted square by Sue Harmsworth of the Kennet Quilters on page 28. Round the corner from the church is the old vicarage, an Alfred Waterhouse design built in 1871.
Hillingdon is a brick manufacturer's showreel, a magnificent display of grey, red and moulded brickwork, with winged dragons and other finials on the roof. It was built for William Poulton, a local brickworks owner, who lived there when Mayor of Reading at the end of the 19th century. It has been a hotel for many years. Italian-style Sutherlands on the north side of Christchurch Road dated from the 1870s and was home to William Silver Data. The name has been retained in a modern house that occupies part of the same plot. In the 1880s, Arthur Warwick Sutton of Sutton Seas lived in the house, conveniently close to the much grander Sintra Lodge where he had grown up. The name Sintra is thought to come from Sintra in Portugal, famous for its extravagant architecture. After Martin Hope Sutton died in 1901, Sintra Lodge was used by the Abbey School, the University of Reading and the Ministry of Labour and National Service, before sadly being demolished in the 1950s. However, the name still lives on in Sintra Park, given to Reading Borough Council in 1957. The Mount was built in the 1870s, originally for Huntley and Palmer's clerks, foremen and managers. A set of stylish houses formed in a square with central terraces, the gaunt bricks with paler brick banding and the use of Caithness flagstone for curbs makes this a distinctive area of Reading. The brickwork is the inspiration for the 8th panel in the Kennet Quilters patchwork on page 28. Further east along the road, the Queen's Head dominates the corner of the lane to Whitley Park Farm. The current building, once owned by Simmons Brewery, dates from the second half of the 19th century, but a public house existed on this site before then. Across the road, approaching Christchurch Green, there are 3 late 18th century Grade 2 listed properties. The Green, together with the parade of shops that was constructed on the south side of Christchurch Road in the early 20th century, is the spiritual heart of the area. The scene is depicted in Jenny Halstead's painting on page 5.
We now go down Redlands Road to where we find the distinctive Waterhouse design former home of Alfred Palmer, built in 1880, which he named Easthorpe. In 1911 he leased the house to the University College, forerunner to the University of Reading, after having a large extension built for women students. It was renamed St Andrew's Hall. About 15 years ago, a further extension was added to house the Museum of English Rural Life. The university's special collections were transferred into the hall. An artwork by Carol Stevens of a large teapot in the museum can be seen on page 2. From there we go to the picturesque main building of Reading School in Early Road, also designed by Alfred Waterhouse. It was opened in 1871 to replace the previous school in Valpy Street. The school was chartered in 1486 and the Queen came to celebrate the quincentenary. A wintry scene of a fox ambling past the school by Therese Lawler is shown on page 13. It's worth noting that Alfred Waterhouse was one of the major contributors to architecture in Reading during the late 19th century, including several houses at Whiteknights Park. In Upper Redlands Road we come to Elmhurst House, built around 1862 for George Palmer. His initials can be seen carved above the keystone of the entrance arch. It later became the home of his son, George William. In 1939, it was taken over by the University of Reading to form St George's Hall. Continuing along Upper Redlands Road, we can see Broad Oak. It was built in 1877 for Charles Andrews of the Catesgrove Ironworks Company. After his death, it became the home of members of the Sutton family. Mother Mary of Calvary acquired it in 1909 to found the St Joseph's Convent School for girls.
Over the course of the 19th century, parts of the large Mockbeggar estate between Whiteknights Park and Wokingham Road were sold off for development. Mockbeggar House, built in 1866, was destroyed by fire in 1999 and subsequently demolished. During the Second World War, the kitchen garden was taken over as allotments that remain in use today. The remainder of the site is now used by the Lakeside Care Home and the Ridgeline Trust for therapeutic gardens. Green Road, Telford Avenue and other streets off Whiteknights Road were also built on parts of the estate. A Telford Avenue tug of war is shown in Hilary James' artwork on page 14. Maybe this video has stimulated your interest in the many Victorian and older buildings in our area and encouraged you to look more closely at them as you pass by. You might also like to watch the video about the Whiteknights Park estate.